On a rainy autumn night, a girl named Lila sat by her bedroom window, watching the rain tap against the glass. The rhythmic sound was comforting, yet her heart felt heavy, weighed down by thoughts she couldn't quite explain. She loved the rain, always had, but tonight it seemed different, colder, lonelier. Lila had moved to the small coastal town just a few months ago. Her parents' work had brought them here, and though the place was beautiful with its cliffs and endless sea views, Lila struggled to find her place. She missed her old friends, the familiar streets, and the sense of belonging that she had taken for granted. As she watched the rain falling in thick sheets, a sudden flicker of movement caught her eye. At the edge of the woods that bordered her backyard, she saw a figure, small, slight, drenched in the downpour. Curious, she strained to see more clearly. It was a girl not much older than Lila, standing under the trees as if unsure whether to seek shelter or embrace the storm. Without thinking, Lila grabbed her jacket and slipped outside, her feet splashing through puddles as she hurried toward the girl. The rain soaked her within seconds, but she didn't care. The closer she got, the more she noticed that the girl looked oddly familiar, like someone she had seen in a dream. "Hey," Lila called out, her voice barely audible over the rain. "Are you okay?" The girl turned slowly, her eyes wide and distant. She was pale, her dark hair plastered to her face, and her clothes clung to her like they had been wet for hours. There was something ethereal about her, almost unreal. "I'm lost," the girl whispered, her voice so soft it seemed to blend with the rain. Lila felt a shiver, but it wasn't from the cold. There was something unsettling about the way the girl spoke, as though she were speaking from a place far away. Still, Lila reached out, offering her hand. "You can come inside. It's warmer." The girl hesitated, glancing back toward the woods, then slowly nodded. As Lila led her to the house, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was something she wasn't seeing, some piece of the puzzle that didn't quite fit. Inside, the warmth of the house did little to lift the strange chill that clung to the air. Lila offered the girl a towel, but she seemed to ignore it, standing motionless in the middle of the living room. "What's your name?" Lila asked, trying to sound calm. The girl's eyes met hers, a sad, haunting look filling them. "Eve," she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. Lila felt her heart skip a beat. That was the name of the girl she had read about, the girl who had gone missing in this town years ago. She had disappeared on a night just like this, lost in the woods, never to be found. But that couldn't be possible. "Eve?" Lila's voice faltered. I've been trying to come home," Eve interrupted, her gaze never leaving Lila's. "But I'm still lost." A strange silence filled the room, broken only by the sound of the rain pounding against the windows. Lila's mind raced, trying to make sense of what was happening. She looked again at Eve, and for the first time she noticed the faint shimmer around her, like mist evaporating from her skin. Eve smiled sadly, a knowing look in her eyes. "Thank you for helping me," she said softly. "But I don't belong here anymore." And just like that she faded, her form dissolving into the air like smoke in the wind, leaving behind only the echo of her voice and the soft whisper of the rain. Lila stood there, frozen in place, her heart pounding. The house was quiet again, the room empty, save for the faintest scent of rain lingering in the air. She knew then that Eve had been more than just a lost girl. She had been a spirit, bound to the stormy night, searching for her way home. And perhaps at long last she had found it. Lila stood in the center of the living room, her mind reeling from what had just happened. The rain outside continued its relentless beat against the windows, but inside, there was an eerie stillness. Her fingers trembled as she wrapped her arms around herself, still drenched from the rain. The warmth of the house barely touched her skin. It was as if the cold from Eve's presence lingered in the air, refusing to leave. She glanced at the spot where Eve had stood only moments ago, her mind refusing to fully accept what she had seen. Was it possible? Could she really have been speaking to a ghost? Lila's parents had mentioned the local legends when they first moved here. Stories of people disappearing, strange lights in the woods, and a girl named Eve who had vanished one stormy night. But they had laughed it off, calling it just that, a legend. Now, standing in the empty room, Lila wasn't so sure. Unable to shake the lingering unease, Lila hurried to her room, grabbing her phone. She needed to know more about Eve, more than just the whispers she had heard around town. With a few quick searches, she found old articles about Eve's disappearance. They all told the same story. a bright, adventurous girl who had wandered into the woods one evening and never returned. Despite weeks of searching, the town had given up hope, and Eve had been declared lost forever. But one detail caught Lila's eye. The night Eve had disappeared was almost exactly 10 years ago to the day. Her heart raced. Could that explain why Eve had appeared tonight? Was this some kind of anniversary? Some night when the boundary between the living and the dead blurred? Lila's thoughts tumbled over each other, each one more impossible than the last. But then what could possibly explain what she had seen? As she sat there staring at the screen, a low creaking noise broke the silence. Lila's breath caught in her throat. Slowly she turned toward the hallway. The door to the attic, the one she hadn't opened since moving in, was slightly ajar. Lila's pulse quickened. She had never been in the attic, her parents having stored most of their things up there when they moved. But something about the open door called to her, the same way Eve's presence had drawn her into the rain. She felt a pull, like an invisible hand guiding her toward something she wasn't sure she wanted to find. With shaky steps she walked toward the attic door. The closer she got, the colder the air became, as if she were stepping back into the rain. Slowly she reached for the doorknob, pushing the door open wider. A gust of cool air greeted her, carrying the faint smell of damp wood and something else, something old and forgotten. The attic was dark, but a dim light from the window at the far end illuminated the space just enough for her to make out shapes. Boxes, old furniture, things covered in dust and cobwebs. But in the center of the room something was different. There, lying on the floor, was a single old journal. It looked out of place, almost as if it had been left there on purpose. Lila hesitated, but her curiosity won out. Slowly she bent down and picked it up. The leather was worn, its edges frayed from years of use. As Lila flipped it open, she saw the name written on the first page in delicate handwriting. Eve Sinclair. Lila's heart skipped. It was Eve's journal. She sat down on the attic floor, her fingers trembling as she turned the pages. The first few entries were ordinary enough. Thoughts about school, her friends, and her love of exploring the woods behind her house. But as she read further, the entries became more unsettling. October 21st. There's something strange about the woods at night. I've seen lights, small flickers that disappear when I get too close. I keep telling myself it's just fireflies or something, but I'm not so sure anymore. October 25th. The lights were there again tonight, brighter this time. I tried to follow them, but I felt lost. I could have sworn I heard someone calling my name. Lila's breath caught as she read the final entry. October 28th. I'm going back into the woods tonight. I know it sounds crazy, but I have to know what's out there. I keep dreaming about it, the lights, the voice. I feel like it's pulling me in, like it's waiting for me. Maybe this time I'll find it. The date sent a chill through Lila. October 28th. That was the night Eve had disappeared, exactly 10 years ago. Lila closed the journal, her mind racing. What had Eve found that night? And why had she come back tonight after all these years? Suddenly, a soft whisper echoed through the attic, sending a shiver down Lila's spine. It was faint but unmistakable. Lila. She froze, her heart pounding in her chest. It was Eve's voice, soft, distant, but calling her by name. The attic grew colder, the shadows deeper. Lila knew what she had to do. Grabbing the journal tightly in her hand, she stood and made her way to the door. There was only one place she could go now, the woods where Eve's journey had ended. Or perhaps where it had only just begun. Lila stood at the edge of the woods, the journal clutched tightly in her hands. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, but the air was still thick with mist, swirling around the trees like ghostly tendrils. The woods looked darker now, more ominous, as if they were hiding secrets that had been buried for far too long. For a moment she hesitated. Every rational part of her wanted to turn back, to go home and forget about Eve, the journal, and the strange pull that had brought her here. But something deeper, something stronger, urged her forward. Eve's voice still echoed in her mind, a whisper that refused to fade. Taking a deep breath, Lila stepped into the woods. The ground was soft and muddy beneath her feet, and the trees seemed to close in around her as she moved deeper into the forest. The air grew colder, and the dim light of the moon barely penetrated the thick canopy above. She could hear the distant rustling of leaves and the soft drip of water from the branches, but everything else was silent, unnervingly so. She didn't know exactly where she was going, but something inside her seemed to guide her. An instinct, a feeling. As she walked, she found herself thinking about Eve's final journal entry, about the strange lights she had seen in these woods. Lila had never believed in the supernatural before, but after tonight she wasn't sure what to believe. The farther she went, the more she began to notice something strange. The mist around her grew thicker, but it wasn't natural. It seemed to glow faintly, swirling in patterns that felt almost deliberate, as if it were alive, guiding her. Her heart raced as she continued, the cold seeping into her bones, but she pressed on. Suddenly, up ahead she saw it, a faint, flickering light. Her breath caught in her throat. It was exactly as Eve had described. Lila paused, her body frozen in place. The light was small, barely more than a glow, but it pulsed softly, almost beckoning her closer. She could feel her pulse quicken, a mixture of fear and curiosity coursing through her veins. Slowly she took a step toward it and then another. The light danced just ahead of her, disappearing behind the trees, only to reappear a few steps further. It was as if it were leading her somewhere, drawing her deeper into the heart of the forest. As she followed the light, Lila felt a strange energy in the air, a hum that seemed to vibrate in her chest. The woods grew even darker, and the mist thickened until it felt like she was walking through a dream, each step heavier than the last. She lost all sense of time and direction, her world narrowing to the glowing light and the shadows around her. And then she saw it. A clearing opened up before her, bathed in the soft glow of the light. In the center of the clearing stood an ancient, twisted tree, its gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal arms. The ground around it was bare, the earth dark and soft as if it had been recently disturbed. Lila's breath caught in her throat as she approached the tree. The light hovered near its base, casting an eerie glow on the ground. Her heart pounded in her chest, and she could feel the cold weight of dread settling over her. Something was wrong here, something she couldn't quite explain. And then she saw it, a small mound of earth freshly dug. Lila's legs felt weak, but she forced herself forward, her eyes fixed on the ground. She knelt down, brushing away the loose dirt with trembling fingers, revealing something buried beneath. It was a necklace. A small, silver pendant, tarnished and worn but unmistakably real. Lila's breath hitched as she recognized it. She had seen it before, in the old photos of Eve that had been printed in the articles she had read. It was Eve's necklace. Her mind raced, struggling to make sense of what she was seeing. Had Eve been buried here? Was this where her journey had ended all those years ago? But before she could think any further, the ground beneath her shifted. The earth trembled and a low, rumbling sound echoed through the clearing. Lila stumbled back, her eyes wide with fear as the mist thickened around her. The light flared brighter, almost blinding her, and then from the shadows she heard it again. Lila. The voice was closer now, more urgent. It wasn't just a whisper this time. It was a plea. Lila's heart pounded in her chest as she looked around, but the mist was too thick, and she couldn't see anything beyond the glowing light. Panic clawed at her, but she forced herself to stay calm, her mind racing. Eve had brought her here for a reason. There was something she needed to know, something that had been hidden in the darkness for far too long. Summoning her courage, Lila reached for the necklace, her fingers brushing the cold metal. As soon as she touched it, a wave of energy surged through her, and the world around her shifted. The mist swirled violently and the light flickered, casting eerie shadows across the trees. And then from the darkness, a figure emerged. It was Eve. Her pale, ghostly form glowed softly in the light, her dark hair still wet from the rain, her eyes sad but filled with a quiet strength. She stood at the edge of the clearing, watching Lila with an expression that was both grateful and sorrowful. Lila's breath caught in her throat. "Eve," she whispered, her voice trembling. Eve nodded slowly, her eyes never leaving Lila's. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice no longer distant but clear and strong. "For finding me." Lila felt tears prick her eyes. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I didn't know." "You've done what I couldn't," Eve interrupted gently. "You've helped me find peace." The mist around them began to thin and the light dimmed, but Eve's form remained, her presence steady and calm. "But there's something more," Eve said, her voice growing softer. "Something that has been waiting in the dark for far too long." Lila's pulse quickened. "What do you mean?" Eve's gaze turned toward the old tree, her expression darkening. "There is something here," she whispered. "Something that wants to stay hidden. But it can't. Not anymore." Before Lila could ask what she meant, Eve's form began to fade, dissolving into the mist. "Eve, wait." Lila called out, but it was too late. Eve was gone and the clearing was silent once more. Lila stood there alone in the darkness, the necklace still clutched in her hand. She didn't know what Eve had meant, but she knew one thing for sure. Whatever had happened here all those years ago, it wasn't over yet. And now it was up to her to uncover the truth. Lila remained frozen in the clearing, her breath coming in short gasps as she tried to process what had just happened. Eve was gone, her ghostly form dissolved into the mist, but the weight of her words lingered in the air. Something that has been waiting in the dark for far too long. Lila's eyes shifted to the ancient tree in the center of the clearing. Its gnarled branches seemed to twist even more ominously, and the ground beneath it pulsed with a strange, heavy energy. Eve's final words echoed in her mind, stirring a deep sense of foreboding. Something else was out here. Something dangerous. Lila took a step back, her instinct telling her to flee. But a stronger pull, one she couldn't ignore, kept her rooted in place. She glanced down at the necklace in her hand, the small pendant glowing faintly in the dim light. It felt cold, heavier than before, as though it held a piece of Eve's unfinished story. "I need to know," Lila whispered to herself. She had come this far, followed Eve's trail through the rain and the dark. She couldn't turn back now. Summoning all the courage she could muster, Lila approached the tree. The closer she got, the more oppressive the air became. The ground seemed to shift beneath her feet, almost alive with a strange vibration. She knelt near the base of the tree where the earth had been disturbed, her heart pounding in her chest. There was something beneath this spot, something buried deep. Using her hands, Lila began to dig. The soft earth gave way easily, as if it had been waiting to be uncovered. As she dug deeper, the energy in the air grew thicker, the hum in her chest more intense. After a few minutes, her fingers brushed against something hard. Wood. She paused, her breath catching. Slowly, carefully, she cleared away more dirt, revealing the outline of a small, weathered box. Her hands trembled as she pulled the box free from the ground. It was old, the wood cracked and stained with age. The lock had long since rusted away, leaving the lid slightly ajar. With a deep breath, Lila lifted the lid, revealing its contents. Inside the box lay a collection of objects, carefully arranged but covered in dust. There were faded letters tied with a ribbon, a tarnished locket, and a small, worn journal, different from the one she had found in the attic. But what caught Lila's eye was the photograph, yellowed with age but still intact. It was a picture of Eve, smiling brightly, standing in front of the very tree where Lila now knelt. But there was someone else in the photograph. A man, his arm wrapped around Eve's shoulders. His face was shadowed, but there was something sinister in the way he stood, something that made Lila's skin crawl. Her heart raced as she studied the photo. She had never heard of anyone else being involved in Eve's story. The articles, the legends, they all spoke of Eve wandering into the woods alone. So who was this man? As she reached for the photograph, the air around her suddenly grew colder, a sharp chill that cut through her like ice. The hum in the air turned into a low, ominous vibration, and the ground beneath her feet trembled. Lila's instincts screamed at her to run, but she couldn't move, frozen by a growing sense of dread. And then the shadows shifted. From the darkness beyond the clearing, a figure emerged. It was tall, its form distorted, cloaked in shadows that seemed to ripple and shift as it moved. Lila's breath caught in her throat as the figure stepped closer, its presence filling the clearing with a suffocating sense of malice. Lila scrambled to her feet, clutching the box to her chest. "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. The figure didn't answer. Instead, it stood silently at the edge of the clearing, watching her with eyes that glowed faintly in the dark. It radiated an unnatural cold, and Lila could feel the weight of its gaze pressing down on her, freezing her in place. Suddenly, the figure shifted and Lila realized with a jolt of terror who it was, or rather what it was. The man from the photograph. The pieces began to fall into place. This was the darkness Eve had warned her about, the thing that had been waiting in the shadows for so long. This was the reason Eve had never come home. Lila backed away, her heart racing, but the figure moved closer, its form becoming more defined as it stepped into the dim light. It was the man from the photograph, but twisted wrong. His face was pale, his eyes hollow and lifeless, and his smile, crooked, cruel, sent a wave of nausea through Lila. You shouldn't have come here, the man said, his voice a low, raspy whisper that seemed to seep into her bones. This is not your story to tell. Lila's mind raced. The box in her hands, the photograph, Eve's journal. This was the truth that had been buried. This man, this thing had been the cause of Eve's disappearance. But no one had ever known, no one had ever found out. Till now. The figure took another step forward, the ground shaking beneath his feet. You've seen too much, he hissed. Now you belong to the dark. Panic surged through Lila. She had to get out of here, but the cold, heavy presence of the man seemed to trap her in place. Desperately, she looked around for something, anything, that could help her. And then she remembered the necklace. Without thinking, Lila grabbed the pendant, clutching it tightly in her hand. As soon as her fingers wrapped around the cold metal, a wave of energy surged through her, stronger than before. The air around her seemed to ripple, and the figure stopped, his glowing eyes narrowing. You can't stop me, the man growled, his voice shaking with anger. Eve was mine. And now so are you. But Lila didn't listen. With every ounce of strength she had, she focused on the pendant, on the memory of Eve, on the truth that had been buried for so long. She could feel the power of the necklace thrumming in her hand, pulsing with the same energy that had brought her here. No, Lila whispered, her voice trembling but defiant. You don't get to hide anymore. As the words left her lips, the pendant in her hand began to glow, a brilliant, blinding light that cut through the darkness. The figure recoiled, his form flickering and distorting as if the light were burning him. Lila could feel the power surging through her, stronger now, pushing back against the dark presence. The man let out a furious howl, his form dissolving into shadow, retreating into the darkness from where he came. The cold, suffocating energy lifted, and the clearing was bathed in the soft glow of the necklace's light. And then, as suddenly as it had come, the light faded, and the woods fell silent once more. Lila stood there, breathing heavily, the box still clutched in her hands. The man, the shadow, was gone. But the weight of what she had uncovered remained. Eve's story, the darkness that had claimed her, it had all come to an end tonight. Lila looked down at the necklace, its glow now faint but steady. She knew that Eve had found her peace, but there was still so much more to understand. The truth, buried for so long, had finally come to light. And it was Lila who had been chosen to tell it. With one last glance at the ancient tree, Lila turned and made her way out of the woods, the mist parting as she walked. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. Lila emerged from the woods, her legs unsteady, her body weighed down with exhaustion and disbelief. The rain had stopped completely, leaving the air crisp and cold. She could see the faint glow of her house through the trees, a beacon of warmth in the otherwise oppressive darkness. Clutching the small weathered box to her chest, she began the slow walk home, her mind a whirl of thoughts. Every step felt heavier than the last, as if the truth she now carried bore a physical weight. Eve's necklace still hung from her neck, its cold metal pressing against her skin, a constant reminder of the confrontation she had just survived. The shadow of the man, of whatever he was, still lingered in her thoughts, his cruel smile etched into her mind. Lila shivered, pulling her coat tighter around her, but she knew the chill she felt came from something far deeper than the cold air. When she finally reached her front door, she hesitated. Her home, which had always been a place of safety, now felt strange and distant. How could she go back to her normal life after everything she had just witnessed? After finding out the truth behind Eve's disappearance, and the dark force that had claimed her? Pushing open the door, Lila stepped inside, her feet automatically moving toward the living room. She dropped the box on the table, her mind still spinning. She glanced out the window toward the woods, half expecting to see the twisted figure lurking in the shadows. But there was nothing. The clearing was empty, the storm gone, leaving behind an unsettling stillness. Lila sank into the couch, her body aching from the night's events. She looked at the box on the table, the photograph of Eve and the man from the shadows still lying on top. It felt surreal, like she had stepped into someone else's nightmare. But the truth was, it was her reality now. She needed to know more. The journal, the letters in the box. They were pieces of a puzzle, a story that had been hidden for far too long. Lila reached for the journal, her fingers brushing the worn leather cover. It felt fragile, as if it had been waiting for someone to open it for years. With a deep breath, she flipped it open, her eyes scanning the first few pages. The handwriting was delicate and precise, written in a careful script. It wasn't Eve's journal, but the entries belonged to someone else. Someone who had known the truth. August 12, 1994. He's been coming to the house again. At first, I thought I was imagining it. The way the shadows seem to move when no one is looking, the way the air grows colder when he's near. But I know it's him. He's watching. Waiting. I can feel him like a sickness that spreads through the walls. Lila's heart raced as she read on. The writer didn't mention the man by name, but the descriptions matched perfectly. The dark figure, the cold presence, the suffocating fear. Whoever had written this had known the truth about him, had felt the same dread that now gripped Lila's heart. I told Eve to stay away from the woods. She doesn't listen, of course. He's too adventurous, too curious. I just hope she doesn't stray too far. There's something in those woods, something that doesn't belong in this world. If he finds her. Lila swallowed hard, her fingers tightening around the edges of the journal. Whoever had written this had been trying to protect Eve. But they had failed. The darkness had claimed her anyway. Flipping further through the journal, Lila found more entries, each one more desperate than the last. The writer spoke of strange occurrences in the town, of people who had gone missing, of lights in the woods that no one could explain. And always, lurking in the background, was the figure of the man watching, waiting. October 27, 1994. Eve is gone. I begged her not to go, but she didn't listen. She said she saw the lights again, said she heard a voice calling her name. I told her it wasn't safe, that there are things in the woods we can't understand. But she's gone now, and I know it's him. He's taken her. I don't know how to stop him. No one believes me. They all think it's just an accident, that Eve wandered too far. But I know the truth. He's been waiting for someone like her. Someone with light in their heart. He feeds on that light, drains it until there's nothing left. Lila's hands shook as she read the final entry. If you find this, please understand I tried. I tried to save her. But the darkness is too strong. He's too strong. If you ever see the lights, if you ever hear the whispers, stay away. Don't follow them. Don't let him take you too. The journal ended there, the pages blank after that final, desperate warning. Lila closed the book, her mind racing. The man, whatever he was, had been hunting Eve, drawn to her light, her spirit. And now he had tried to claim Lila too. But Lila wasn't like Eve. She had something Eve hadn't, Eve's necklace, and the truth that had been buried for so long. Lila glanced at the box, her eyes lingering on the letters tied with a faded ribbon. She knew there were more answers there, more pieces of the story. But exhaustion pulled at her, the weight of the night's events pressing down on her. She would rest tonight. But tomorrow she would unravel the rest of this mystery. She would find out who the man really was and why the darkness in the woods had claimed so many lives. And most importantly, she would make sure it never happened again. As she lay down on the couch, the necklace still resting against her skin, Lila closed her eyes, her mind filled with images of Eve, of the shadowy man, and of the ancient tree where it had all begun. She had uncovered part of the truth, but the darkness wasn't gone. It was still out there waiting. But now Lila wasn't afraid. She knew what she had to do. And she wasn't going to stop until the shadows were banished for good. Lila awoke to the soft light of dawn filtering through the curtains. For a brief, disorienting moment, she felt the weight of normalcy, the kind of peaceful morning she used to have before her life had been upended. But as soon as she shifted on the couch, the events of the previous night came crashing back. The box, the journal, the man in the woods. It wasn't a nightmare. It was real. She sat up slowly, her body sore, the remnants of fear clinging to her like a shadow. The small wooden box still sat on the table, its contents waiting. The journal lay next to it, and the faded letters were tied neatly with a ribbon, their secrets still sealed. The room was quiet, but the air felt heavy, like the world was holding its breath, waiting for her next move. Lila took the necklace from around her neck, running her fingers over the cold metal. It had saved her last night, pushed back the darkness. But why? What power did it hold? And what had truly happened to Eve? The answers, she knew, were buried in those letters and the other half of the journal she had yet to fully explore. With trembling fingers, she reached for the bundle of letters. The ribbon fell away easily, the paper fragile and yellowed with age. She unfolded the first letter carefully, her heart racing as she began to read. October 31st, 1993. My dearest Eve, there is something I need to tell you, something I should have told you long ago. But I've been afraid, so afraid that if you knew the truth it would destroy you. But the truth is coming for you whether I say it or not. The darkness in these woods, this thing that's been haunting our family for generations, it wants you. It's always wanted you. You're light. You have a light inside you that it craves, a light that it will consume if you aren't careful. That's why I've tried to keep you away from the woods, why I've warned you so many times. But I see it in your eyes, you don't believe me. You think the stories are just that. Stories. But they're real. And now the shadows are closing in. There's something I've kept from you, something that's been passed down in our family for years. It's the necklace, Eve. The one you always see me wearing, the one I've never explained. It holds power, protection. As long as you wear it, the darkness can't claim you. I wanted to give it to you, but I was too late. You've already gone into the woods. If you find this letter, it means you've seen the lights, heard the whispers. You're in danger. Please, Eve, come back. Don't let him take you. The letter ended abruptly, and Lila's hands trembled as she held the delicate paper. The man, whatever he was, had been after Eve all along. The letters hinted at something deeper, something ancient that had haunted their family for generations. And the necklace, the one Lila now wore, it was more than just a memento. It was a shield against the dark force that had claimed Eve's life. But what had happened? Why hadn't Eve worn the necklace? Lila unfolded the second letter, her pulse quickening. November 5, 1993. If I don't know where you are. I've searched the woods, called your name, but you don't answer. The town thinks you've run away, that you'll come back when you're ready. But I know better. I can feel the cold, the shadow creeping in. It's him. He's taken you. I can't prove it, but I know it. The same thing happened to my sister, your aunt, all those years ago. No one believed me then either. But I won't let him keep you. I won't let him win. I'm going back into the woods tonight. I'm bringing the necklace with me. I'll find you, Eve, and I'll bring you home. I don't care what it takes. Lila's breath hitched as she realized the writer of the letters had gone after Eve. Whoever this was, she had tried to save her. But the journal had been found in the attic, and Eve had never returned. Lila's heart ached with the realization that neither Eve nor the person who wrote these letters had ever made it out of the woods. But the necklace, this necklace, had been the key all along. And now it was Lila's. The final letter was shorter, hastily written, and stained with something dark at the edges. November 6, 1993. It's over. I failed. He has her. But there's still a chance for you, Lila. Lila's blood ran cold as she saw her own name. The necklace. Wear it always. Stay away from the woods. Don't follow the lights. Don't listen to the whispers. If you ever find yourself drawn to the shadows, remember what I've told you. You can stop him. You can break the cycle. But only if you're strong enough. The letter ended there, the ink trailing off as if the writer had been interrupted. Lila sat in stunned silence, her heart pounding in her chest. Whoever had written these letters had known her, known that one day Lila would be drawn to the same darkness that had claimed Eve. And now it made sense. The strange pull she had felt toward the woods, the whispers in the night, the lights that had led her deeper into the forest. It had all been part of the same sinister plan. But the necklace, the letters, the journal, they had all been left behind for her. The cycle could be broken, but only if she understood the full truth. The man, the shadow, had taken Eve, just as he had taken others before her. But Lila had something they didn't. She had knowledge. She had the necklace. And she had Eve's voice guiding her from beyond the grave. Lila stood up, her body filled with a strange sense of purpose. She couldn't stay here, couldn't hide from the truth any longer. There was something more she needed to uncover, something still hidden in the woods. She grabbed the journal, the letters, and the necklace, her mind made up. Tonight she would return to the clearing, to the ancient tree where it had all begun. She didn't know what she would find, but she wasn't afraid anymore. This time she wouldn't be running from the darkness. This time she would face it head-on. And she would end it, for Eve, for herself, and for every soul that had been claimed by the shadow in the woods. As the day passed, Lila found herself unable to focus on anything but the clearing, the ancient tree, and the man who had haunted her every thought. She spent the afternoon poring over the journal, searching for any details that might help her face the darkness that awaited her. But there was only so much that the fragile yellowed pages could tell her. By the time the sun began to set, casting long shadows over the house, Lila was ready. She had packed a small bag with the essentials: a flashlight, the journal, and the letters. But most importantly, she wore the necklace, the same one Eve had been meant to wear, the one that had saved her from the man's grasp last night. Its cold weight against her skin gave her a strange sense of security, even as the fear gnawed at the edges of her mind. She left the house just as the last light of day faded, the mist already beginning to rise from the damp ground. The woods, once familiar, now felt like a living, breathing entity, waiting for her return. The same pull that had drawn her in before was there again, a whispering force that beckoned her closer. But this time Lila didn't resist. She followed it. The air grew colder as she ventured deeper into the woods, the trees towering above her like silent sentinels. The moon, pale and full, cast an eerie glow over the path, illuminating the mist that clung to the ground. Lila's breath came in slow, measured puffs, her heart steady despite the rising tension. Soon the clearing came into view. The ancient tree stood in the center, its twisted branches reaching toward the sky like skeletal hands. The earth beneath it seemed to pulse with energy, a faint vibration that Lila could feel through the soles of her boots. She stopped at the edge of the clearing, taking a moment to steady herself. This was it. The moment she had been waiting for. The moment she would face the truth. Lila stepped into the clearing, the mist swirling around her ankles as she approached the tree. The ground felt strange beneath her feet, as if it were alive, shifting with every step she took. She knelt at the base of the tree, the same spot where she had unearthed the box the night before. The soil was still disturbed, the remnants of her digging clearly visible. But tonight something was different. The air felt heavier, colder. The oppressive presence of the man, the shadow, was stronger now, palpable in the air around her. Lila's heart pounded in her chest, but she didn't move. She couldn't run from this, not anymore. From the corner of her eye, she saw it. The flicker of movement in the shadows just beyond the clearing. A figure, tall and dark, watching her from the edge of the trees. The man. He stepped forward, his form still cloaked in shadow but his presence unmistakable. Lila could feel the cold radiating from him, could sense the malice that clung to him like a second skin. His glowing eyes locked onto hers and a twisted smile spread across his face. A smile that made her blood run cold. "You came back," he said, his voice low and rasping like wind through dead leaves. "Just like Eve." Lila swallowed, forcing herself to stand tall. "I know what you are," she said, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her insides. "You won't take me like you took her." The man chuckled, the sound dark and hollow. "You think you understand, but you don't. This is bigger than you. Bigger than Eve." He took a step closer, his form becoming clearer in the moonlight. His face, pale, hollow and twisted, was the same as it had been in the photograph. But his body seemed to ripple as if he were only half real, a distortion of the man he once was. The air around him crackled with energy, a dark, malevolent force that made Lila's skin crawl. "I've been waiting for this moment," he continued, his eyes glinting with something dangerous. "For generations your family has tried to keep me away. But they failed. And now you're the last." Lila's hand tightened around the necklace, the metal cool against her skin. "No," she said, her voice firmer now. "I'm going to end this." The man's smile faltered just for a moment and his eyes flickered toward the necklace. "That trinket won't save you." "It couldn't save her." "You're wrong," Lila replied, taking a step forward. "It's the only thing that can stop you. That's why you're afraid of it." His face twisted in anger, his form flickering as the shadows around him seemed to thicken. "You think you can defeat me with a piece of metal?" he hissed. "I am eternal. I am the darkness. You are nothing." But Lila didn't back down. She could feel the power of the necklace pulsing against her skin, growing stronger with every word. The journal's warnings, the letter's pleas, they had all led her here to this moment. She understood now. The necklace wasn't just protection. It was a key, a weapon. She stepped closer to the man, her fear melting away, replaced by a cold determination. "You've taken enough from my family. From this town. It ends tonight." The man let out a furious growl, his form distorting violently, the shadows around him writhing like living things. The ground beneath Lila's feet trembled, and the air grew impossibly cold. But she didn't falter. She raised the necklace, holding it out toward him, the pendant glowing with a fierce, blinding light. The man recoiled, his eyes wide with shock and fury. "No," he howled, his voice reverberating through the clearing. "You don't know what you're doing." But Lila did. She had known the moment she stepped into the clearing. The necklace wasn't just a shield, it was a beacon, a force of light that could banish the darkness. It had been passed down through her family for a reason, and now its purpose was clear. With a final surge of energy, Lila thrust the pendant forward, the light blazing brighter than the moon, brighter than the stars. The man let out a scream, his form disintegrating into shadow, his twisted face contorted in pain as the light consumed him. The darkness around him writhed and twisted, shrinking away from the brilliance of the pendant, until there was nothing left but a faint wisp of smoke. And then silence. The clearing was still, the air no longer heavy with dread. The oppressive presence that had lingered in the woods for so long was gone. Lila stood there, panting, the pendant still glowing softly in her hand. The man was gone. The darkness had been defeated. She looked down at the ancient tree, the ground beneath it now quiet, still. The mist that had clung to the clearing had dissipated, leaving only the soft glow of moonlight. It was over. Lila sank to her knees, exhaustion washing over her like a wave. The weight of what she had just done, the realization that she had broken the cycle, that she had defeated the darkness that had haunted her family, finally hit her. Tears welled in her eyes, but they weren't tears of fear. They were tears of relief. Eve was finally at peace. As Lila sat there in the quiet, she felt a warmth, a gentle, comforting presence that wrapped around her like a soft embrace. It was as if Eve herself was there, watching over her, thanking her. Lila smiled through her tears, her heart lighter than it had been in years. The darkness was gone, and the shadows no longer held power over her. She had won. And for the first time in what felt like forever, the woods were truly silent. Lila stood, taking one last look at the clearing, at the ancient tree that had witnessed so much darkness, and now the light that had banished it. She turned and began the walk home, the necklace still glowing softly against her chest, a reminder of the courage that had brought her here. The night was calm, peaceful. And Lila knew, deep in her heart, that the nightmare was finally over. As Lila made her way back through the forest, the weight that had pressed on her shoulders for so long seemed to lift. The woods, once filled with ominous shadows, now felt quiet and still. The darkness that had haunted her family for generations was gone, and with it the strange pull toward the forest. The air felt fresh and new, as though the trees themselves had been freed from the malevolent force that had held them captive. The path before her was clearer than it had ever been, illuminated by the soft glow of the moon and the pendant hanging around her neck. Each step felt lighter than the last, as if the ground itself no longer resisted her. She could still feel the presence of Eve, a warm and comforting energy that lingered just beyond her awareness. Lila's heart swelled with the bittersweet realization that Eve had finally found peace. Her soul, no longer trapped, had moved on. When she reached the edge of the woods and saw the soft lights of her house in the distance, a wave of exhaustion hit her, though it wasn't the fear-driven weariness she had felt before. This was the kind of tiredness that came after a long, hard-fought battle. But there was peace in it, a sense of finality that filled her with quiet satisfaction. The house was just as she had left it, a beacon of warmth in the cool night air. Lila stepped onto the porch, glancing back at the woods one last time. The sight of the towering trees, no longer menacing, brought a strange sense of closure. It was as if the forest, too, was ready to heal from the scars of the past. Inside, the house was quiet and Lila welcomed the silence. She set the journal and letters on the table beside the box, her fingers brushing the weathered cover one last time. These relics of the past had guided her through the darkness, and now they could rest, just as Eve could. The weight of the necklace still hung around her neck, and Lila reached up, her fingers tracing the delicate chain. She considered taking it off, but something told her to keep it on, at least for tonight. It had been her shield, her connection to Eve, and for now it felt right to wear it. She sat down on the couch, the soft fabric a welcome relief against her aching body. Closing her eyes, she let herself sink into the cushions, her mind drifting as the adrenaline slowly ebbed away. The quiet of the house, the warmth, and the gentle hum of peace settled over her like a blanket. But even as sleep began to pull her under, Lila's thoughts flickered back to the woods, to the man, the shadow, that had haunted her family for so long. Though he was gone now, a part of her still wondered about the origins of his darkness. Where had he come from? What had drawn him to her family, and why had he fed on their light? There were still questions, still mysteries that she hadn't fully uncovered. But Lila wasn't afraid of the unknown anymore. She had faced the deepest darkness and come out the other side. Whatever lingering secrets the forest held, they could wait. She would deal with them in time, if they even mattered anymore. For now, Lila allowed herself to let go. She had done what she set out to do. She had broken the cycle, ended the nightmare, and set her family's ghosts to rest. And with that thought, she let the comfort of sleep finally take her. The soft glow of the pendant the only light in the room as she drifted into a dreamless slumber. The next morning, Lila awoke to the gentle warmth of sunlight streaming through the windows. For the first time in what felt like forever, she wasn't greeted by the cold, heavy feeling of dread. The world outside was bright, the air crisp and fresh, as if the storm from the night before had washed everything clean. She sat up, blinking in the soft light of the morning. The events of the previous night felt distant now, like something from a dream. But the necklace around her neck was real, its familiar weight resting against her skin, and the journal on the table was a reminder of the journey she had taken. As Lila made her way to the kitchen, she glanced out the window toward the woods. The trees stood tall and serene, their branches swaying gently in the morning breeze. There was no lingering darkness, no ominous pull. The forest had been freed just as she had. She made herself a cup of coffee, the simple act grounding her in the present. The house was quiet, but it no longer felt lonely. It felt like home again, a place where she could finally start to heal. As she sipped the warm drink, her thoughts wandered back to the letters, to the journal, and to Eve. Lila knew that her story wasn't over. There were still things to uncover, still pieces of the past that hadn't fully revealed themselves. But she wasn't in a hurry to find those answers. For now, she was content to let them come in their own time. Later that day, she walked to the edge of the woods, her heart light as she stepped through the familiar path one last time. She didn't go far, just enough to see the clearing from a distance. The ancient tree, the place where it had all begun, stood silently, its branches swaying peacefully in the breeze. There was no more fear, no more pull from the shadows. The darkness had been banished and the light had won. With a soft smile, Lila turned and walked away, leaving the woods behind. As she made her way back to the house, she felt a sense of calm settle over her. Whatever came next, she was ready. For the first time in a long time, Lila felt truly free. In the days that followed, Lila found herself gradually adjusting to a life that felt for the first time completely her own. The shadows that had once haunted her every thought, the fear of the woods and the ever-present sense of foreboding, these things no longer controlled her. It was as though a veil had lifted, and Lila could finally see the world as it was meant to be. She spent her mornings walking along the quiet roads surrounding her home, breathing in the crisp autumn air. The colors of the leaves, once ominous in their fiery hues, now appeared vibrant and beautiful. The world seemed alive in a way she hadn't appreciated before. She wasn't just surviving anymore, she was living. Though the letters, journal, and necklace were still part of her life, Lila no longer felt the compulsion to unravel every mystery immediately. They had been tools, guiding her through the darkest chapters of her story, but they no longer held the same weight over her. She left the letters tied up neatly on the mantel, the journal sitting quietly beside them. The necklace remained around her neck, though, its cold metal a constant reminder of the protection it had offered, of the family that had come before her, and of the strength she had found within herself. A week after that final night, Lila received an unexpected visitor. She was in the garden, pulling at the last of the summer's overgrown weeds, when she heard the crunch of gravel behind her. Turning, she saw a familiar face, an older woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile. It was Mrs. Halloran, the town librarian, and a woman who had always seemed to know more than she let on. "I thought I might find you here," Mrs. Halloran said with a soft chuckle, stepping closer. "I hope I'm not intruding." Lila smiled, wiping the dirt from her hands on her jeans. "Not at all. What brings you by?" Mrs. Halloran's gaze drifted toward the woods, the faintest hint of concern flickering in her eyes. "I wanted to check in on you. The whole town's been talking about the storm the other night. Some say they heard strange noises coming from the woods." Lila's heart skipped a beat, but she remained calm. "It was a rough night, but everything's fine now." The older woman nodded slowly, though her gaze lingered on Lila's face as if searching for answers. "You're different, you know. I can see it. There's something lighter about you." Lila's smile grew wider. "I feel lighter. Like I've finally let go of something heavy." Mrs. Halloran's eyes twinkled with understanding, but she didn't press for more. Sometimes the heaviest burdens aren't visible to the world, but I'm glad to see you found some peace. There was a pause, a moment where the wind rustled through the trees, and Mrs. Halloran looked as if she might say something more. Lila sensed that the librarian of all people knew more than she was letting on. She had always been a mysterious figure in the town, a quiet observer who seemed to have knowledge beyond her years. Lila felt that if anyone understood the strange happenings in the woods, it was Mrs. Halloran. "I've read the letters," Lila said quietly, her voice steady. "I've learned what happened. And I faced it." Mrs. Halloran's expression softened, her eyes filled with a quiet knowing. "Then you've done what your family has been trying to do for generations. You've broken the cycle, dear. Not many people would have had the strength." Lila took a deep breath, feeling the weight of those words settle over her. "I still don't understand all of it. The shadow, the man in the woods. Why he targeted us. Why he wanted Eve. There are pieces I'm still missing." Mrs. Halloran's gaze drifted to the woods again, her expression thoughtful. "The man you faced, the one who haunted your family, wasn't a man at all. Not anymore. He was something older, something darker that latched onto your bloodline long ago." Lila's heart quickened. "Why? What was he?" The librarian sighed softly, her voice low and steady. "There are stories, old stories, about spirits that feed on light. Souls that carry a special brightness, something pure. Your family, Lila, has always had that light. Eve, your grandmother, and others before her. The shadow wanted that light because it's a source of power for him. He fed off the fear, the grief, the despair." Lila felt a chill run down her spine, but it wasn't fear. It was the weight of understanding. "That's why he kept coming back." Mrs. Halloran nodded. "Yes. But you've done what your ancestors couldn't. You faced him and you didn't let the fear take you. You protected the light instead of letting him consume it." Lila's hand instinctively reached for the necklace around her neck. The pendant, cool and familiar, seemed to pulse faintly beneath her fingertips. "It wasn't just me. The necklace, it helped me." "The necklace was a conduit," Mrs. Halloran explained. "A way to channel the strength of those who came before you. Eve's light, your family's love, it was all there guiding you." Lila swallowed, the enormity of it all settling in her chest. "So, it's really over?" The librarian smiled softly, her eyes filled with warmth. "Yes, Lila. It's over. You've freed yourself and your family from the darkness that had claimed them for so long." Lila let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding, her heart light with the knowledge that the shadow was truly gone. The woods were no longer a place of fear. They were just trees, just nature. The darkness had been vanquished. Mrs. Halloran reached out and gently squeezed Lila's hand. "You've done more than anyone could have asked of you. Now it's time for you to live your life. To be happy." Lila nodded, a slow smile spreading across her face. "Thank you, Mrs. Halloran. For everything." The librarian smiled back and with a final nod turned to leave. As she walked away, disappearing down the quiet road, Lila felt a sense of closure wash over her. The last piece of the puzzle had been revealed and now there was nothing left to fear. She looked toward the woods one last time, the sunlight filtering through the branches, casting a golden glow over the trees. There were no shadows there anymore, no whispers in the dark. Only peace. Lila turned back to her garden, her hands ready to dig into the earth, to plant something new. Her life, just like the land around her, was ready for growth. It was time to move forward, to embrace the light that had always been hers. And so, as the days grew shorter and the chill of autumn settled in, Lila finally began to build the future she had once thought impossible. She would honor Eve's memory, cherish the strength she had found within herself, and most of all, live the life that had been reclaimed from the darkness. The cycle was broken. The light had won. And Lila's story, her true story, was only just beginning. As the weeks passed, Lila began to fully embrace the sense of freedom that had come with breaking the cycle of darkness. The lingering fear that had once tainted even her happiest moments was now a distant memory, and in its place she felt a new clarity, a calmness that allowed her to breathe deeply again. Her days were filled with simple joys, tending to her garden, exploring the nearby town, reconnecting with old friends. For the first time in years she didn't feel like she was looking over her shoulder, waiting for something to go wrong. The necklace, however, remained with her, tucked beneath her shirt where its cool presence reassured her. Even though the shadow was gone, There was something about the pendant that made her feel grounded, as if it carried with it not only her family's history, but a piece of herself she had only just discovered. It wasn't a reminder of the fear or the darkness, but of the strength she had found in facing it. One particularly sunny afternoon as she was walking through town, she ran into Ben, a childhood friend she hadn't seen in years. He was standing outside the small cafe that had been their favorite haunt as teenagers, sipping on a coffee, his face lighting up with surprise when he saw her. "Lila, is that really you?" he called out, a grin spreading across his face. Lila laughed and waved as she approached him. "In the flesh. It's been a while, hasn't it?" "Too long," Ben replied, giving her a quick hug. "I didn't think you were still in town. What have you been up to?" They settled into a conversation, catching up on the lost years. Ben had been living in the city working as a graphic designer, but had recently come back to visit his family. He was thinking of moving back permanently, looking for a change of pace. As they talked, Lila realized how easy it was to slip back into old rhythms, how natural it felt to laugh and share stories without the weight of the past pressing down on her. Ben noticed the shift in her almost immediately. "You seem different, Lila. Lighter. Happier." Lila smiled, the words sinking in. "I guess I am. I've been through a lot lately, but I think I've finally found some peace." Ben looked at her thoughtfully, sensing there was more to the story but not pressing her for details. "Well, whatever it is, it suits you. You look great." They spent the afternoon reminiscing, laughing about old memories and dreaming about the future. By the time the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of pink and orange, Lila felt a warmth she hadn't experienced in a long time, a sense of connection, of belonging. As they said their goodbyes, Ben paused for a moment, his gaze drifting toward the woods on the edge of town. "You know, I remember those woods always spooked me as a kid. Do you still stay away from them?" Lila hesitated, glancing in the same direction. "I used to. But not anymore. They don't scare me now." Ben raised an eyebrow, surprised. "Really? That's a big change. What happened?" Lila thought about how to answer, her fingers instinctively touching the pendant beneath her shirt. "Let's just say I faced something there I never thought I could. And now, I'm not afraid of them. I think it's about time they stopped holding power over me." Ben nodded, impressed by her quiet strength. "Good for you. Sounds like you've been through some serious stuff. If you ever want to talk about it, I'm here." Lila smiled, appreciating the offer but knowing that some parts of her journey were hers alone. "Thanks, Ben. I'll keep that in mind." As she walked home, Lila felt a renewed sense of possibility. The fear that had once controlled so much of her life no longer had a hold on her. And while she still carried the memories of what had happened, they no longer defined her. A few days later, Lila decided to return to the clearing one last time. Not because she needed closure, she had already found that, but because she wanted to see the place that had once been a source of fear from a new perspective. She packed a small bag with some snacks and a blanket, intending to spend a quiet afternoon in the woods, just as she had when she was a child. As she walked the familiar path, she felt the difference in the air. The woods were no longer oppressive, no longer filled with the strange pull that had once lured her deeper. Instead, they felt alive and vibrant, the birds chirping in the branches, the leaves rustling softly in the breeze. The sunlight filtered through the trees, casting dappled patterns on the ground as she made her way to the clearing. When she arrived, the sight of the ancient tree greeted her like an old friend. The ground beneath it was still, the earth undisturbed since that fateful night. Lila spread out her blanket beneath the tree's sprawling branches and sat down, feeling the soft earth beneath her hands. She leaned back, gazing up at the tree's twisted limbs as they stretched toward the sky. This place, which had once been a battlefield for her deepest fears, was now a place of peace. The shadows that had haunted it were gone, replaced by the gentle warmth of the autumn sun. For a long while she simply sat there, soaking in the quiet. The wind whispered through the leaves, carrying with it a sense of serenity that wrapped around her like a soft embrace. Lila closed her eyes, letting herself sink into the moment. And then from somewhere deep within her she felt it, a presence. But this time it wasn't the cold, oppressive force she had once feared. It was warm, gentle, familiar. She didn't need to open her eyes to know who it was. "Thank you," she whispered softly, her voice barely a breath on the wind. In that moment Lila knew that Eve, along with the others who had come before her, was at peace. The cycle had been broken, the light restored, and now there was nothing left to fear. Lila had reclaimed her life, her future, and the woods no longer held any darkness over her. When she finally stood to leave, Lila took one last look at the clearing. It would always be a part of her story, but it no longer held any power over her. She had faced the shadow and she had won. As she made her way home, the weight of the past faded with each step, replaced by a growing sense of anticipation for the future. For the first time in her life, Lila felt truly free. As the vibrant colors of autumn began to fade into the muted tones of winter, Lila found herself embracing the change in seasons with a sense of excitement rather than apprehension. The woods, now familiar and serene, held a new promise for her. With the weight of darkness lifted, she felt ready to explore her life in ways she had never imagined. The first snowfall arrived one brisk morning, blanketing the town in white and transforming the familiar landscape into a winter wonderland. Lila stood by her window, sipping hot cocoa as she watched the snowflakes dance through the air. There was something magical about the way the world looked under that soft layer of white, and she felt a thrill at the thought of new adventures awaiting her. That afternoon, with her scarf wrapped snugly around her neck, Lila ventured outside to take a walk. The snow crunched delightfully beneath her boots, and she felt a childlike joy as she began to make snowballs and toss them at the tall pine trees lining the edge of her property. It was a simple pleasure, but one that brought laughter bubbling from her lips. As she wandered further down the road, she spotted Ben building a snowman in his front yard. He glanced up, his cheeks flushed from the cold, and waved enthusiastically. Lila waved back, her heart leaping with joy at the sight of him. "Hey Lila," he called out, gesturing for her to join him. "Want to help me out with this guy? I could use an extra pair of hands." "Absolutely." Lila laughed, her spirits soaring. She jogged over, her heart feeling light. Together they rolled large snowballs, stacking them high to form the body of the snowman. As they worked, the conversation flowed easily. They reminisced about their childhood and the mischief they had gotten into, laughing about the time they had tried to build an igloo but ended up creating a pile of snow instead. There was a warmth between them, a sense of companionship that felt familiar yet fresh. Once the snowman was complete, adorned with a scarf and a top hat Ben had found in his garage, they stepped back to admire their handiwork. "He looks perfect," Lila said, grinning at their creation. "Not bad for a couple of adults playing in the snow," Ben replied, a mischievous glint in his eye. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in pastel colors, Lila turned to Ben. "Would you like to come inside for some cocoa? I just made a fresh batch. Only if you promise to add a little bit of whipped cream on top," he teased. "Deal." Lila laughed, leading him back to her house. Inside, the cozy warmth enveloped them as they settled at the kitchen table, mugs in hand. The rich aroma of cocoa filled the air, and they continued to talk, sharing dreams and aspirations. Ben spoke of his desire to start his own design studio, and Lila found herself opening up about her newfound love for gardening and the possibility of starting a small flower shop in town. "I can totally see you running a flower shop," Ben said, his eyes brightening with enthusiasm. "You've always had a way with plants. I remember how you used to take care of the garden at your house like it was your own personal paradise." Lila felt a blush creep to her cheeks. "Thanks. I've thought about it a lot since I've been back. It feels right, like it could be my way of connecting with the community." "I think you should go for it," Ben encouraged, his expression earnest. "You have the passion and you've already overcome so much. If anyone can do it, it's you." Lila smiled at his support, feeling a spark of determination ignite within her. "I'll think about it more seriously. I'm still figuring things out." As they sipped their cocoa and continued to talk, Lila couldn't shake the feeling that this was the beginning of something special, both in her life and with Ben. The connection they shared felt deeper than mere friendship, something she hadn't expected but was growing increasingly open to exploring. As winter deepened, Lila found herself spending more time with Ben. They went on long walks, shared meals, and even collaborated on a few creative projects, Ben designing flyers for her budding flower shop idea, and Lila helping him brainstorm for a graphic novel he wanted to write. Their laughter filled the air, mingling with the crisp winter breeze, as they navigated the early stages of their blossoming relationship. One evening, as they sat together on Lila's porch, wrapped in blankets and watching the stars twinkle above, Ben turned to her, his expression serious. "Lila, I know we've only just reconnected, but it feels like there's something here between us. Something real." Lila's heart raced at his words. She had sensed it too, the way their chemistry crackled in the air, but she hadn't dared to voice it. "I feel it too," she admitted softly, her gaze locking onto his. "I didn't expect to find this connection with you again." He reached out, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear, his touch gentle and electrifying. "I don't want to rush things, but I can't ignore how I feel. You've changed, Lila. You're not just the girl from our childhood anymore. You're strong, and I admire that." A shy smile crept onto her lips, her heart swelling with warmth. "Thank you, Ben. That means a lot to me." As they sat in comfortable silence, the weight of the past fell away, replaced by the thrill of possibility. The connection they shared felt electric, and the tension in the air was undeniable. She could see the affection in his eyes, and she found herself drawn to him, a magnet of emotions pulling her closer. In that moment, as the stars twinkled above and the cold winter air wrapped around them, Lila felt a surge of courage. "Maybe we should give this a try," she said, her voice steady despite the flutter of her heart. Ben smiled, his eyes lighting up with joy. "Really? I'd love that." They leaned in closer, sharing a tentative kiss that sent a wave of warmth through Lila. It was soft, sweet, and filled with promise, a kiss that sealed the new chapter of their lives together. As winter turned to spring, Lila found herself not just blossoming in her personal life but also in her ambitions. Inspired by her conversations with Ben, she took the plunge and began her flower shop. She spent hours researching, planning, and transforming a small corner of her home into a bright, welcoming space filled with blooms and greenery. The townspeople embraced her venture, filling her shop with orders for events, birthdays, and just because bouquets. Lila poured her heart into the shop, and with each arrangement she felt more and more like the person she had always been meant to be. Ben continued to support her, his graphic design skills helping her create beautiful branding and marketing materials. They became a team working side by side and cheering each other on. Their relationship deepened with each passing day, filled with laughter, love, and a shared sense of purpose. One sunny afternoon, as Lila arranged a bouquet of vibrant flowers, she felt a familiar sense of peace wash over her. She had faced her fears, embraced her past, and built a life that filled her with joy. The shadow that had once loomed over her family was gone, replaced by the light of love and possibility. As she stepped outside her shop, a gentle breeze rustled through the flowers, and Lila looked up at the sky, feeling gratitude swell in her heart. She had transformed her life from one of darkness into a canvas filled with color and beauty. And as she watched the flowers sway in the wind, she knew that this was just the beginning of her journey, one where she would continue to grow, to explore, and to embrace all that life had to offer. With Ben by her side and a bright future ahead, Lila felt ready to face whatever came next. Her story was her own now, written in every petal of every bloom, and she couldn't wait to see how it unfolded. As spring blossomed into summer, Lila's flower shop became a vibrant hub of activity in the town. The bright colors of the flowers mirrored the joy she felt within, and her confidence grew with each passing day. She experimented with new arrangements, held workshops, and even began collaborating with local businesses for events, weddings, and seasonal festivals. One sunny Saturday, Lila set up a booth at the town's annual Summerfest, a celebration filled with laughter, food, and crafts. She had created a special bouquet just for the occasion, using cheerful sunflowers, delicate daisies, and fragrant lavender. The stall was adorned with colorful banners and smiling faces, reflecting the excitement of the day. As Lila arranged the flowers at her booth, she felt a surge of gratitude for everything she had built. The shop had become not just a source of income but a space where she could share her love for nature with others. Children and adults alike marveled at her creations, and she took great joy in teaching them about the different flowers and their meanings. "Lila." Ben's voice cut through the sounds of the festival, and she turned to see him approaching, carrying a plate piled high with festival treats. "I brought you some snacks." "Perfect timing." Lila laughed, her heart fluttering at the sight of him. Ben had been an ever-present support, and they had been spending nearly every day together, their bond deepening with each shared moment. As he set down the plate, Lila couldn't help but admire how handsome he looked, the sun highlighting the features of his face as he grinned at her. "You should take a break. You've been working hard," he said, leaning against the booth. "I'm fine. Just a few more arrangements to finish up," Lila replied, though she felt a warmth spread through her at his concern. All right, but let me help you with the customers, he offered, rolling up his sleeves and jumping into action. Together they sold bouquets, engaged with festival goers and shared laughter, their synergy evident in how effortlessly they worked together. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Lila felt a sense of accomplishment wash over her. She glanced at Ben, who was packing up the last of the unsold flowers. I can't believe how well today went. Thank you for helping out. Of course. I had a blast, Ben said, flashing her a wide smile. We make a great team, you know. Lila's heart swelled at his words. We really do, she agreed. There was something exhilarating about sharing this journey with him, and she found herself cherishing their partnership more each day. As the festival began to wind down, Lila and Ben packed up their booth, the air filled with the sweet scent of flowers mingling with the warm summer breeze. Just as they finished, a soft glow illuminated the path before them, as strings of lights hung above flickered to life, casting a magical ambience over the festival. Do you want to take a walk? Ben suggested, his eyes twinkling in the light. Absolutely, Lila said, her heart racing with anticipation. They strolled hand in hand through the festival, stopping to admire the various booths filled with crafts, food, and art. Lila loved watching Ben as he pointed out things he found interesting, his passion infectious. They shared stories, laughter, and dreams as they wandered, the world around them feeling like a fairy tale. As they approached the center of the festival, they found a small stage where local musicians were setting up. The soft strumming of a guitar and the sound of a gentle voice began to fill the air, drawing a crowd. Ben looked down at Lila, a mischievous smile playing on his lips. Shall we dance? Lila's heart skipped a beat. Dance? Here? In front of everyone? Why not? Ben challenged playfully. We're at a festival. Live a little. Before she could protest further, he pulled her into the crowd where couples swayed gently to the music. With a deep breath, Lila let go of her reservations and followed his lead, allowing the rhythm of the music to guide her. They danced together, laughter bubbling from their lips as they twirled and spun, lost in the moment. With each step, Lila felt a rush of happiness, the world around them fading away. She looked into Ben's eyes, seeing a mirror of her own joy reflected back. It was a magical moment, one that felt as if it were plucked straight from a dream. As the song ended, they stepped back, breathless and exhilarated. Lila's cheeks flushed from the dance and the warmth of Ben's hand still holding hers. That was amazing, she exclaimed, grinning from ear to ear. I knew you'd love it. Ben replied, his eyes shining. Suddenly, the music shifted to a slower, more romantic tune, and Lila felt a flutter in her chest. Ben stepped closer, pulling her into his embrace as they began to sway gently to the music. The world around them blurred into the background, and Lila rested her head against his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. I'm really glad we've reconnected, Ben murmured, his voice low and sincere. I don't think I've ever felt this way about anyone before. Lila lifted her head to meet his gaze, feeling her heart race. Me too. I never imagined we would come together like this. They held each other tightly, the world fading into the background as they swayed to the music, the air filled with the scent of blooming flowers and the warmth of summer nights. When the song ended, Ben gently brushed a strand of hair from her face, his fingers lingering for a moment longer than necessary. Can I tell you something? He asked, his tone serious but warm. Of course, Lila replied, her breath catching in her throat. I think I'm falling for you, Lila, he confessed, his eyes searching hers. And I wanted you to know that I'm all in. Whatever this is between us, I want to explore it. Lila's heart soared at his words. She had been feeling the same way but hadn't dared to voice it. I'm falling for you too, Ben, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. You've made my life brighter in ways I never expected. Ben's smile lit up his face, and in that moment, everything felt right. They leaned in closer, sharing a soft kiss under the twinkling lights, surrounded by laughter and music. As the summer nights unfolded into a season of love and discovery, Lila and Ben continued to support each other in their dreams. Lila's flower shop flourished, becoming a cornerstone of the community, while Ben worked on his graphic novel, inspired by their shared experiences. They spent weekends exploring nearby hiking trails, cooking together and dreaming of a future filled with adventure. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the landscape. Lila found herself reflecting on everything that had led her to this moment. She stood in her garden, surrounded by the flowers she loved, and marveled at how far she had come. The necklace still hung around her neck, a quiet reminder of her family's legacy and the strength she had discovered within herself. It represented the journey of healing, growth, and love that had shaped her into the woman she had become. That evening, Ben joined her in the garden, the soft light illuminating his features as he walked toward her. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, sensing her contemplative mood. "Just how grateful I am for everything," Lila replied, her heart full. "For my shop, for the flowers, and most importantly, for you." Ben stepped closer, taking her hands in his. "You deserve all of this and more, Lila. You've worked so hard to create a beautiful life for yourself. I'm just glad I can be part of it." Their hands intertwined. Lila felt an overwhelming sense of happiness. "I want to keep growing, keep exploring. With you." Ben smiled, his eyes shining with affection. "Then let's do it together." As summer gradually transitioned into autumn, Lila and Ben embraced each new day with enthusiasm, their love blooming just like the flowers in her shop. The darkness of her past felt like a distant memory, replaced by the warmth of connection, the thrill of new beginnings, and the beauty of life unfolding in unexpected ways. One crisp autumn morning, while Lila was preparing for a busy day at the shop, she received an unexpected phone call from Mrs. Halloran, the town librarian who had helped guide her during her darkest days. "Lila, I have some exciting news," she said, her voice warm and inviting. "What is it?" Lila asked, intrigued. "We're organizing a local art and craft fair, and I'd love for you to showcase your flower arrangements. It's a great opportunity to connect with the community even more and inspire others with your creativity." Lila's heart raced at the thought. "I would love that. Thank you for thinking of me." As they spoke about the details, Lila felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was a chance to share her passion with others, to inspire and connect with the town that had embraced her so warmly. The day of the fair arrived, and Lila set up a beautiful display of her arrangements, each one reflecting the vibrant spirit of autumn. The colors were rich and warm, deep reds, oranges, and yellows, creating a stunning tapestry that captured the essence of the season. As festival-goers wandered through the booths, Lila found herself chatting with people she hadn't met before, sharing the stories behind her flowers and offering tips for arranging their own. She felt a sense of fulfillment in connecting with others, and it reminded her of how far she had come. At one point she spotted Ben helping at a nearby booth, his laughter ringing out as he engaged with children, showing them how to make simple crafts. Her heart swelled with pride. He was genuinely invested in the community just as she was. As the sun began to set, casting a golden light over the fair, Lila took a moment to step back and appreciate the beauty around her. She saw families enjoying the evening, children laughing, and the community coming together to celebrate creativity and connection. Just then Ben approached, a bright smile on his face. "Hey superstar. Your arrangements are stunning," he said, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "Thanks. It's been an amazing day," Lila replied, her cheeks flushing at his compliment. "I love seeing everyone come together like this." Ben nodded, his expression serious. "I'm proud of you, Lila. You've created something beautiful here and you've inspired so many people." Lila felt a warmth spread through her at his words. "I couldn't have done it without you," she said sincerely. As night fell, the fair continued to buzz with energy. Lila and Ben found a quiet spot near a cozy fire pit, where they could catch their breath and reflect on the day. "This has been incredible," Lila said, gazing into the flames. "I feel like this is just the beginning." Ben looked at her, his expression serious. "I believe it is. You've got a fire in you, Lila, and it's inspiring. I can't wait to see where it takes you." As they sat together, Lila felt a surge of gratitude for the journey they had shared. The path ahead was filled with endless possibilities, and she knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. With the stars twinkling above and the warmth of the fire enveloping them, Lila took a deep breath, ready to embrace the future with open arms. Together they would write the next chapter of their story, one filled with love, adventure, and the beauty of life unfolding. As autumn deepened, Lila's flower shop thrived, becoming a beloved part of the community. With the success of the craft fair behind her, she felt a renewed sense of purpose and creativity. Every day brought new customers, and she relished the joy of sharing her passion for flowers and arrangements. But alongside the hustle and bustle of the shop, Lila was also aware of the whispers of change in the air. The leaves turned vibrant shades of red and gold, and the days grew shorter. She cherished her moments with Ben, who remained a constant source of encouragement and inspiration. Their relationship deepened, filled with shared dreams, laughter, and a comforting rhythm that felt like home. One evening, as they prepared dinner together in Lila's cozy kitchen, she turned to Ben, who was chopping vegetables with a focus that made her smile. "What do you think about hosting a harvest dinner at the shop?" she asked, a spark of excitement in her voice. "We could invite the community, celebrate the season, and showcase local produce." Ben paused, looking up with a bright smile. "That's a fantastic idea. We could partner with local farmers and maybe even have a few of your flower arrangements on the tables." Lila felt a rush of enthusiasm. "Yes. It would be a wonderful way to bring everyone together and show them how special our community is." Over the next few weeks, Lila and Ben worked tirelessly to organize the event. They reached out to local farmers, gathered donations, and planned a menu that highlighted the harvest season. As they worked side by side, the anticipation for the dinner grew, filling the shop with an electric energy. The night of the harvest dinner arrived, and the shop was transformed into a warm, inviting space. Lila had adorned the tables with her seasonal arrangements: deep orange marigolds, rustic sunflowers, and fragrant herbs that filled the air with a comforting scent. Fairy lights twinkled above, creating a magical atmosphere. As guests began to arrive, Lila felt a mixture of excitement and nerves. She greeted each person with a warm smile, watching as they took in the beauty of the space and the care that had gone into every detail. Ben moved gracefully through the crowd, ensuring everyone felt welcomed, his charisma shining through as he shared stories and laughter with guests. Once everyone was settled, Lila stood up to address the crowd, her heart racing. "Thank you all for being here tonight. This community means so much to me, and I'm grateful to share this harvest dinner with you. I hope you enjoy the food, the company, and the beauty of the season." As the evening unfolded, guests enjoyed a delicious meal made from local produce, and Lila took immense joy in seeing people connect over food and flowers. Laughter filled the air, stories were shared, and the atmosphere felt alive with warmth and connection. After the main course, Ben stood up to share a few words. "I just want to thank Lila for her hard work in putting this all together. She's not just an amazing florist, she's a passionate member of this community. Let's raise our glasses to her." Cheers erupted from the crowd, and Lila felt her cheeks flush with warmth as everyone clapped and raised their glasses in her honor. As the night continued, the energy shifted to a more intimate setting. Lila and Ben found themselves wandering outside to the small patio behind the shop, where the cool night air enveloped them like a soft blanket. The stars sparkled above, and Lila took a deep breath, filled with gratitude. "I can't believe how amazing tonight was," she said, leaning against the wooden railing, her eyes shining. "I feel so blessed." Ben stood beside her, his presence grounding. "You did this, Lila. Your passion and dedication brought everyone together. It's beautiful to see." Lila turned to face him, feeling the warmth of his gaze. "I couldn't have done it without your support. You've been there every step of the way." Ben took a step closer, the space between them filled with an undeniable tension. "I believe in you, Lila. You have an incredible gift, and I'm just glad I can be part of it." Lila's heart raced at his words, and she felt the pull of connection between them deepen. "You mean so much to me," she admitted softly. Before she could say more, Ben reached out, gently brushing his fingers against her cheek. "You mean the world to me too," he said, his voice low and sincere. In that moment, the world around them faded away. They leaned in closer, sharing a soft kiss under the starry sky. It was a kiss that spoke of promises, of a future they were building together, and of the love that had grown between them. As autumn transformed into winter, Lila and Ben embraced the changes around them. They continued to support each other in their endeavors, their relationship blossoming like the flowers in Lila's shop. The long nights were filled with warm dinners, shared laughter, and dreams that spilled out of their hearts and into the world. One snowy evening, as Lila prepared for a quiet night at home, she received an unexpected call from Mrs. Halloran again. "Lila, I have another opportunity for you," she said excitedly. "The local community center is hosting a winter festival, and they would love for you to set up a flower booth." Lila's heart raced at the thought. Of course. I'd love to. She spent the next few weeks preparing for the festival, crafting beautiful winter arrangements that showcased the season's beauty: evergreens, white roses, and sparkling silver accents. As the festival day approached, Lila realized she wanted to share this experience with Ben. Would you like to come with me? She asked one evening, her eyes sparkling with excitement. I'd love to, he replied, his enthusiasm evident. The day of the winter festival arrived, and Lila set up her booth in the community center, adorned with beautiful arrangements that caught the eye of festival goers. The space was filled with laughter and cheer, families enjoying the festivities, children making crafts, and friends connecting over warm drinks and treats. Ben was by her side, helping her arrange flowers, chatting with customers, and sharing her passion with everyone around them. As the day unfolded, Lila felt a deep sense of joy watching the community come together. Amid the hustle and bustle, Lila noticed a little girl staring at her flowers with wide eyes, her face lighting up with wonder. Lila knelt down beside her. Would you like to pick a flower? She asked gently. The girl nodded, her eyes sparkling. Lila carefully handed her a delicate white rose, and the girl's smile widened. Thank you, she exclaimed, clutching the flower tightly. As the festival continued, Lila's heart swelled with warmth at moments like these. She felt a sense of fulfillment that went beyond just selling flowers. It was about connecting with people, spreading joy, and building a community. Later that evening, as the festival began to wind down, Lila found herself standing outside with Ben, the crisp winter air refreshing against her skin. Today was incredible, she said, her heart full. I love sharing this with everyone. Ben nodded, a smile on his face. You have a gift for bringing people together. It's inspiring to see. As they walked hand in hand back to her car, Lila felt a sense of contentment wash over her. The warmth of Ben's presence and the joy of the day filled her heart with hope for the future. With winter settling in, Lila and Ben began to dream of their next adventures. They talked about traveling to new places, exploring flower markets in different cities, and even planting a small garden together in the spring. As the holiday season approached, they planned cozy evenings by the fireplace, sipping hot cocoa and sharing stories. The bond they had formed felt unbreakable, and each day brought new joy and love into their lives. On a particularly chilly December evening, Lila invited Ben over to decorate her home for the holidays. She had collected beautiful decorations, and the smell of pine filled the air as they hung ornaments on the tree. This is beautiful, Ben said, stepping back to admire their handiwork. You've really outdone yourself. Thanks. I wanted to create a cozy atmosphere, Lila replied, her heart fluttering at the sight of him enjoying her space. As they decorated, they shared memories of their favorite holiday traditions, laughing and reminiscing about their childhoods. Lila felt a sense of warmth and belonging, a feeling she had longed for during her darker days. Once they finished decorating, they settled on the couch, surrounded by twinkling lights and the soft glow of the tree. Lila poured them each a mug of cocoa and they sank into the cushions, content in each other's company. Can I tell you something? Lila said, her heart racing. Of course, Ben replied, looking at her with an encouraging smile. I've been thinking a lot about us and the future, Lila began, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. I want to keep growing with you, to keep building this life together. You make me happier than I ever thought possible. Ben's expression softened and he took her hand in his. I feel the same way, Lila. You inspire me every day and I can't imagine my life without you. In that moment, Lila felt a wave of warmth and hope wash over her. They leaned in closer, sharing a tender kiss that felt like a promise. A promise to continue nurturing their love, their dreams, and the beautiful life they were building together. As the snow began to fall outside, covering the world in a soft blanket of white, Lila knew that whatever the future held, they would face it together, hand in hand, heart to heart. The love they had nurtured in the glow of autumn would only continue to blossom, bringing light and warmth into the winter months ahead. With each passing day, Lila embraced the beauty of change and the possibilities that lay ahead, ready to bloom in whatever season life would bring. As winter settled over the town, Lila found herself fully embracing the holiday spirit. The shop was a hub of festive activity, filled with vibrant arrangements of winter blooms, evergreen branches, and fragrant spices. She had created a special line of holiday bouquets, combining classic colors like red and gold with unique elements like pine cones and glittering ornaments. The shop was always buzzing with customers, and Lila loved helping them find the perfect arrangements for their holiday gatherings. One chilly afternoon, while Lila was busy arranging a display, she noticed Ben walking through the door, his cheeks flushed from the cold. He held a steaming cup of hot cocoa in each hand, and a bright smile spread across his face as he approached her. "Surprise! I brought you a little pick-me-up," he said, offering her a cup. Lila's heart warmed at the sweet gesture. "You're the best," she exclaimed, taking the cup and inhaling the rich aroma. "Just what I needed." They shared a cozy moment amidst the busyness of the shop, savoring the warmth of the cocoa and each other's presence. Lila looked around, noticing the decorations they had put up together. The shop felt alive with holiday cheer, and she couldn't help but feel grateful for all that had transpired over the year. "Have you thought about our plans for New Year's Eve?" Ben asked, his eyes sparkling with excitement. Lila shook her head, a smile creeping onto her face. "I was so caught up in the holidays that I hadn't given it much thought. What do you have in mind?" "I was thinking we could host a small gathering at the shop," he suggested. "Invite some friends, bring in a local band, and have a little celebration to ring in the new year." Lila's eyes lit up at the idea. "That sounds amazing. I love it. We can create a beautiful atmosphere with flowers and decorations." Over the next few weeks, Lila and Ben worked together to plan the New Year's Eve celebration. They reached out to friends, hired a local band, and decorated the shop with twinkling lights and elegant floral arrangements. As they planned, Lila felt a sense of excitement and joy that reminded her of the warmth of their bond. On the night of the celebration, the shop glowed with festive lights, and the air was filled with laughter and music. Friends mingled, enjoying the delicious food and drinks that Lila and Ben had prepared together. The atmosphere was lively and vibrant, reflecting the energy of the new year on the horizon. Lila floated through the crowd, chatting with guests and making sure everyone felt welcome. She caught glimpses of Ben, who was in his element, engaging with friends and sharing stories. Seeing him so happy filled her heart with warmth, and she felt a deep sense of love for him. As the night progressed, the band began to play more upbeat songs and people started to dance. Lila felt the rhythm of the music pulling her in, and she grabbed Ben's hand, leading him to the dance floor. "Come on. Let's dance," she exclaimed, her laughter ringing out as they joined their friends. They twirled and spun together, lost in the music, their joy infectious. When the clock neared midnight, everyone gathered around, excitement bubbling in the air. Lila and Ben stood side by side, their hands intertwined, their hearts racing in anticipation. "Are you ready for this?" Ben asked, his eyes sparkling. "Absolutely. This is going to be unforgettable," Lila replied, her excitement palpable. As the countdown began, the crowd joined in, voices rising in unison. 10, 9, 8, 7. With each number, Lila felt a surge of hope and love. The past year had been transformative, and as they reached one, she turned to Ben, a radiant smile on her face. "Happy New Year." As Ben spoke his vows, Lila felt tears of joy streaming down her cheeks. His words were filled with sincerity and love, promising to support and cherish her for a lifetime. When it was her turn to speak, she poured her heart into her vows, sharing the depths of her love and commitment to him. "I promise to stand by your side through every season of life, to support your dreams, and to create a beautiful life together," Lila declared, her voice strong and clear. As they exchanged rings, the world around them faded away. In that moment, it was just the two of them, ready to embark on a new journey together. Once they were pronounced husband and wife, they shared a kiss that sealed their vows, and cheers erupted from their friends and family. The celebration that followed was filled with dancing, laughter, and love, every detail a reflection of their journey together. As the evening came to a close and the stars began to twinkle overhead, Lila and Ben stepped outside for a moment of quiet reflection. Hand in hand, they looked up at the night sky, the universe stretching out before them, filled with endless possibilities. "This is just the beginning, isn't it?" Lila asked, her heart racing with excitement. Ben nodded, his gaze fixed on her. "Absolutely. Together we can take on anything." Lila smiled, feeling a sense of belonging and purpose wash over her. The love they had cultivated was not just a bond between them. It was a foundation upon which they would build their lives together. As they stood together under the stars, Lila knew that every challenge they had faced had brought them to this moment. With Ben by her side, she was ready to embrace the future hand in hand, heart to heart, creating a life filled with love, adventure, and the beauty of blooming together. Thank you for watching Accent English Language.